I ran the factory floor for 25 years without a single major accident. You know what my reward was? A cardboard box for my things. You're expendable, Royce, the new director's voice echoed in my head, cold as steel. My name is Royce Callahan, 62 years old, lead foreman at Silver Ridge Industries in Lubbock, Texas. We made industrial valves and pressure equipment for oil refineries, precision work where mistakes could cost lives down the line. That Wednesday morning, Marlene from Human Resources called me into the conference room. Vincent Cole, the new operations director who'd been with us all of 5 months, sat there with a spreadsheet, clean hands, pressed shirt. His smug grin said he'd never touched a wrench. Guy had never set foot on my floor except for the mandated safety tour. Royce, we're implementing some operational changes, Marlene said, sliding a folder across the table. The company is streamlining supervisory positions. Vincent nodded along. Market pressures, competitive restructuring. We need leaner operations to survive, he added, not meeting my eyes. I opened the folder. Severance package. 3 weeks to train my replacement. Half my pension would vest immediately, the other half would come in monthly payments. The company logo at the top of the page looked different. They'd changed it last month without telling any of us on the floor. Your replacement starts tomorrow, Marlene added, like she was telling me the cafeteria was serving chicken. Tyson Reed, he's got a business degree from Texas Tech. Very promising. He's our future, Royce, Vincent said, his tone dripping with condescension. I closed the folder and looked at the wood grain in the table. 25 years, no major accidents. 412 employees had gone home safe under my watch. Day after day, I'd built the safety protocols they still used, implemented the maintenance schedules they followed, trained every foreman and lead tech on that floor. My hands, calloused from decades of work, gripped the folder, betraying my calm. I understand, I said. Vincent looked relieved. Marlene's smile barely reached her eyes. That night, I drove home the long way, past the canyon flats where the old refineries used to stand. My father had worked there before the companies moved south. He'd always told me, Royce, a man's value is in what he builds, not what he says. I'd built something at Silver Ridge, a system, a culture, a record, and now I had 3 weeks to hand it over to a kid who wouldn't understand what he was dismantling. The radio played an old country song, mocking my mood with its lonesome twang. When I got home, I called my old buddy Walt, who'd retired last year. They're letting me go, I told him. Bastards, he said. You going to raise hell? They'll regret this, Walt, I growled, my voice tight with fury. No, I said. But they'll realize soon enough. Some knowledge doesn't transfer in 3 weeks. I hung up and looked at my work boots by the door. 25 years of factory floor grime that never quite washed out. A faded photo of my son Caleb, now grown, stared from the mantel, reminding me of promises broken. They had no idea what they were losing. I started at Silver Ridge when my son Caleb was just a year old. Lydia and I had been married 5 years, and that job meant stability, health insurance, a future. You're our rock, Royce, Lydia used to say, kissing me before my shifts. 3 shifts a week at first, then supervisor after 4 years, assistant foreman after 8, and finally lead foreman after old Hank Larson retired. The floor was my second home. I knew every machine by its sound, could tell when the number 4 press was struggling before any warning light came on. I could spot a safety risk from across the room, smell when the hydraulic fluid needed changing, feel when the ambient temperature was off by 3 deg. Lydia used to say I cared more about that factory than our own house. Maybe she was right. After she left 12 years ago, taking Caleb with her to New Mexico, I poured everything into the job. Her last words, "You love that place more than us," haunted my sleepless nights. Holidays, weekends, storm days when half the crew couldn't make it in. The company changed hands twice during my time. First was Great Plains Holdings in 2013. They kept most things the same. Then Vanguard Equity bought us in 2022. Private equity guys with algorithms and efficiency metrics. They started trimming excess capacity immediately. Profit over people, Matteo muttered when the first layoffs hit. I noticed the changes slowly. Maintenance budget cuts, cheaper parts suppliers, longer intervals between machine servicing. They replaced 4 of my best mechanics with contract workers, reduced inventory of replacement parts, started pushing production quotas higher every quarter. 8 months ago, Vincent Cole arrived with his MBA and his spreadsheets. He called a floor meeting his first week. We're implementing new performance tracking across all departments, he announced. Data-driven decision-making is the future of manufacturing. This is our death knell, Elena whispered, her face pale. After the meeting, my lead machinist, Matteo, pulled me aside. Royce, this guy's going to be trouble. He asked me if we could modify the safety lockout procedure to save time. He doesn't care about us, Matteo hissed, his eyes burning. I brushed it off, then told Matteo we'd manage like we always had, but the warning signs kept appearing. Vincent stopped attending the monthly safety reviews. Emails about equipment maintenance went unanswered. My requests for training budget were denied 4 times. Then they hired 4 junior supervisors fresh out of college who started questioning procedures we'd refined over decades. Royce, is it really necessary to run a full diagnostic after every shift change? One asked. You're stuck in the past, old man, another sneered. These daily inspections seem excessive. The manual only recommends weekly checks. I started keeping my own records, dating and photographing maintenance requests, documenting every conversation about safety concerns. Something told me I might need proof someday of what we'd been doing right all these years. I hid the files in a locked drawer, my insurance against betrayal. I just didn't expect to be shown the door so soon. The kid they brought in to replace me, Tyson Reed, showed up in dress shoes and a tie his first day. 30 years old with gelled hair and a tablet he kept checking every 4 minutes. I'm really excited to learn from you before taking over, he said, offering a firm handshake like they teach in business school. I've already reviewed all the production metrics and identified several efficiency opportunities. I'll make this place run like a tech startup, he boasted, oblivious to the floor's pulse. I nodded and handed him a pair of steel-toed boots and safety glasses. Floor tour first, metrics later. For 3 weeks, I walked Tyson through everything, showed him the maintenance schedules, the safety protocols, the personnel files, introduced him to every shift supervisor and lead operator. But I noticed something as days passed. He was taking notes about processes, but missing the people. He didn't ask Matteo about his daughter who'd just joined the Navy. Didn't remember that Elena on the assembly line needed extra break time for her arthritis. Didn't understand that you had to sweet-talk the number 3 milling machine on cold mornings. These workers are just cogs, he muttered once, thinking I didn't hear. On my last Tuesday, I overheard him talking to Vincent in the break room. Once we implement the new shift schedule, we can probably consolidate 3 of the maintenance positions, Tyson said. And that safety redundancy Royce insists on for the hydraulic press. The manual doesn't require those extra checks. Vincent nodded, pleased. Exactly the fresh perspective we needed. You're our golden boy, Tyson, he said, clapping his shoulder. They didn't see me standing there. I walked away quietly, something cold settling in my stomach. These weren't just changes to save money. They were dismantling safeguards I'd built over decades. Protections that kept people from losing fingers, arms, or worse. My heart pounded, knowing lives hung in the balance. That afternoon, I made a decision. I called an impromptu meeting with my most trusted people, Matteo, Elena, Jasper from maintenance, and Leroy, who ran night shift. We met in the parking lot after work. Under a flickering streetlight, their faces showed fear and resolve. They're going to start cutting corners, I told them. And the new kid doesn't know what he doesn't know. What do you want us to do, Royce? Matteo asked. We can't just ignore the new boss. We're not traitors, but we're not blind, he added, voice low. No, I agreed. But you can document everything, keep your own records, and if things start going sideways with the equipment, I handed each of them my personal phone number written on index cards. Call me, not management, me. You're our lifeline, Royce, Elena said, clutching the card. I spent my final day clearing out my locker. Tyson was already sitting at my desk rearranging things. His shiny nameplate mocked my worn-out tools. I handed him my keys. Any last advice? He asked, barely looking up from his tablet. Yeah, I said. Listen to the floor. The machines talk to you if you pay attention. He smiled politely, clearly not understanding. I've got algorithms for that, he quipped, dismissing me. I walked out without ceremony, no party, no cake, no speech. 25 years ended with a handshake from Marlene in Human Resources and a parking lot exit badge that deactivated as soon as I drove away. The gate clanged shut behind me. like a prison door. But I wasn't done with Silver Ridge. Not really. I was just waiting. 4 weeks after I left, Matteo called me. "They're changing the maintenance schedule on the hydraulic presses," he said, voice low like he was hiding in the supply closet. "Pushing it from weekly to bi-monthly inspections." Tyson laughed when I warned him, Matteo said, furious. "Document it," I said. "Note any pressure changes, any leaks, any unusual sounds." 3 days later, Jasper from maintenance called. They denied my parts order for the backup generator, said we can wait until the semi-annual inventory. "They're gambling with our lives," he whispered, voice shaking. I kept a log of every call, every change, every corner cut. At 5 weeks, I decided to reach out formally. I wrote an email to Vincent and Marlene, professional and to the point. I've heard some concerning reports about changes to safety and maintenance protocols. Having overseen these systems for over 2 decades, I'd be happy to consult regarding the potential risks these modifications might introduce. Marlene replied within the hour. "Thank you for your concern, Royce. The transition has been smooth, and Tyson has implemented several efficiency improvements already. We'll certainly reach out if we need your insight. Stay out of our business," her tone implied, sharp as a blade. Corporate speak for stay away. At 7 weeks, the first accident happened. Minor, a belt slipped on the number 4 press, causing a 3-hour shutdown. No one hurt. "Tyson blamed me for not catching it," Matteo texted, enraged. Then a small hydraulic leak in week 8. Then 4 separate electrical issues in week 9. Roy called me after each incident. The new guy's blaming the equipment. Roy says it's all outdated and poorly maintained. He's lying to cover his ass, Leroy growled. My blood boiled. That equipment had run flawlessly under proper care. By week 12, I couldn't stand it anymore. I drove to the plant during lunch break and waited in the parking lot. The air was thick with dust, a reminder of the grind I'd left. When Matteo came out, I waved him over to my truck. "How bad is it really?" I asked. Matteo looked around before answering. "Bad? Production's down 18%. They fired Jasper last week, said he was resistant to change. And Tyson's got his college buddy running maintenance now. Guy couldn't tell a torque wrench from a screwdriver. He's a walking disaster, Royce," Matteo said, eyes blazing. "Anyone been hurt? That was my biggest fear." "Not yet, but Leroy almost lost a hand when a safety switch failed on the cutting line. Tyson wrote it up as operator error. Leroy's still shaking, scared to go back," Matteo added. "I made a decision then. I knew people at the State Industrial Safety Board. One call could trigger an inspection. The next morning, I made that call, explained my concerns, my history with the plant, the specific changes that worried me. The inspector, a woman named Carla Hensley, took detailed notes. "We'll conduct an unannounced inspection within the next 3 weeks," she assured me. "You're doing the right thing, Royce," she said firmly. I felt satisfied. The system would correct itself. 4 days later, Matteo called again, panic in his voice. "They know, Royce. Someone told management you were behind the inspection request. Vince is going nuclear. He's screaming about betrayal," Matteo whispered, terrified. My stomach dropped. "What's happening?" "They've got us working overtime, cleaning everything up, falsifying maintenance logs. The production lines shut down so they can fix all the problems before the inspection. Tyson's threatening to fire anyone who talks," he added. Then came the legal letter, hand-delivered to my house by courier. Silver Ridge Industries was accusing me of malicious interference with business operations and violation of non-disclosure agreements. They threatened a lawsuit if I continued spreading false information about company practices. "You're a traitor, Callahan," the letter's tone screamed. I called my lawyer, Edwin Morrow. He reviewed the letter and, bluffing about the NDA violations, "You haven't shared any proprietary information, but they could make your life difficult with legal fees alone." "They're scared, Royce." "You've got them cornered," Edwin said. "Can they stop the inspection?" I asked. "No. Once the safety board decides to inspect, it happens. But Royce, be careful. These corporate types play dirty when cornered. Watch your back," he warned, his voice grave. I hung up, anger mixing with anxiety. They were trying to intimidate me into silence while hurriedly fixing the very problems I'd highlighted. But what would happen after the inspection passed? They'd go right back to cutting corners more carefully next time. I needed more than one inspection. I needed evidence of systemic negligence. The inspection came and went. Silver Ridge passed. Barely. Carla Hensley called me afterward. They fixed the immediate safety issues, she said, but I noted several concerns in my report. Their maintenance documentation was inconsistent. Several employees seemed rehearsed in their responses. Something's off, Royce. I can feel it, she confided. Will there be penalties? I asked. Minor ones, not enough to change behavior long term. I thanked her and hung up, frustrated but not surprised. Companies like Silver Ridge knew how to navigate these situations, fix the visible problems, pay the small fines, return to business as usual. I slammed my fist on the table, rattling my coffee mug. That weekend, my doorbell rang. It was Leroy, looking nervous on my front porch. His hands shook as he glanced over his shoulder. Sorry to bother you at home, Royce. I needed to show you something away from the plant. He handed me a thumb drive. What's this? I asked. Maintenance logs. The real ones, and the ones they created for the inspection, plus emails between Vincent and corporate about the cost savings initiative. They've been planning these cuts for a year before you were even let go. They needed someone who wouldn't push back like you did. They're playing with our lives, Leroy said, his voice breaking. I invited Leroy in, and we spent hours going through the files. The picture that emerged was worse than I'd imagined. This wasn't just about replacing an expensive veteran with a cheaper junior manager. Silver Ridge was implementing a company-wide strategy of deliberate underinvestment in safety and maintenance, offsetting the increased risk of accidents against projected quarterly savings. One email from a Vanguard equity executive was particularly chilling. Insurance covers accidents. Missed earnings targets cost us investors. They're betting on blood, I muttered, my stomach churning. They were gambling with people's lives. My people, the ones I'd protected for 25 years. There's more, Leroy said, pointing to another folder. Tyson knows the equipment is failing. Look at these maintenance requests he's denied. The list was staggering. Critical safety components, backup systems, preventive replacements, all declined with the same note. Deferred to next semi-annual per-budget constraints. Why are you showing me this, Leroy? I asked. This could cost you your job. Leroy's expression hardened. Elena's nephew got hurt yesterday. Press guard failed. The one Tyson said wasn't critical to replace. Kid's 20, lost 3 fingers. They're calling it operator error, making him sign papers while he was still on pain meds. He's just a boy, Royce, Leroy choked out, tears in his eyes, my hands clenched involuntarily. They can't do that. They are doing it, Leroy said. And it's only a matter of time before something worse happens. We're counting on you to stop them, he pleaded. After Leroy left, I sat in my kitchen for hours. The evidence spread across my table. I was torn between fury and responsibility. These weren't just statistics on a spreadsheet. These were lives, people I'd worked alongside for decades. Families I knew. I thought of Caleb, wondering if he'd be proud or ashamed of me now. I picked up my phone to call the safety board again, then stopped. Another inspection wouldn't be enough. Silver Ridge would clean up temporarily, pay another fine, continue the cycle. No, this required a different approach. I called Mateo, then Elena, then 6 other trusted veterans from the floor. We arranged to meet at Walt's house the next day, neutral territory. The air was thick with tension as we gathered in his garage. When everyone arrived, I laid out what I'd learned, showed them the evidence Leroy had provided. So, what do we do? Mateo asked when I finished. Go to the media? We could burn them down on the news, he urged, fists clenched. I shook my head. Not yet. First, we need leverage. What kind of leverage? Elena asked. Something to make them bleed, she said, her voice fierce. The kind that hits their bottom line. I said, I'm going to need records of every shortcut, every failure, every near miss since I left. Documented, dated, photographed if possible. They'll fire anyone they catch collecting that information, Walt pointed out. They're watching us like hawks, he warned. I know, I said. That's why we need to be smart about this, and patient. I looked around at these people, skilled workers who deserved better than being treated as disposable parts in a corporate machine. Their eyes burned with the same fire I felt. Give me 3 weeks, I said, and whatever you do, keep your eyes open and stay safe. We trust you, Royce, Jasper said, his voice steady. For the next 3 weeks, I became a ghost at Silver Ridge. I never set foot on the property, but my presence was felt. Mateo and the others fed me information daily. Shift reports, equipment failures, safety incidents. I worked late into the night, my kitchen table buried under files. I compiled everything meticulously, building a case that couldn't be dismissed. Meanwhile, I made 3 key moves. First, I reached out to Walter Grayson, a former client who now worked for Silver Ridge's biggest customer, Horizon Energy Systems. We met for coffee at a diner 30 miles from the plant. The place smelled of burnt toast and desperation. "Royce, good to see you," Walter said, shaking my hand. "Been wondering where you disappeared to." "Forced retirement," I said, "but that's not why I asked to meet." I showed him photos of defective pressure valves that had shipped from Silver Ridge in the past month, valves that would be installed in Horizon Systems. "This is a disaster waiting to happen," I said, my voice low. "These pass inspection?" Walter asked, frowning. "The new inspection process?" "Yes. The corner cutting has consequences, Walter. I couldn't live with myself if something failed at one of your facilities." Walter studied the photos carefully. "This is serious, Royce. We've got 35-year relationships with our suppliers, but safety comes first. I'll have my team on this by tomorrow," he promised, his face grim. "All I'm asking is that Horizon conducts its own quality audit. See for yourself." My second move was contacting Carla Hensley again at the safety board. This time, instead of general concerns, I provided specific documented violations, complete with dates, times, and photographic evidence. "This is much more substantial than before," Carla said. "I'll need to bring my supervisor in on this." "You're shaking things up, Royce," she said, a hint of admiration in her tone. "I understand," I told her. "Just please keep my name out of it for now." The third move was the riskiest. I reached out to Tyson Reed directly, asked him to meet me for lunch away from the plant. To my surprise, he agreed. He looked tired when he showed up at the restaurant. Dark circles under his eyes, his collar slightly askew. His hands fidgeted, betraying his polished facade. "I appreciate you meeting me," I said after we ordered. "How's the floor running?" Tyson ran a hand through his hair. "Honestly, it's a mess. Equipment failing left and right, corporates breathing down my neck about production targets, but I can't make quota with half the line breaking down every other day." "I'm drowning, Royce," he admitted, his voice cracking. "They didn't tell you what you were walking into, did they? They said the operation needed modernizing, that you were resistant to change, but every time I tried to fix something, 4 more problems pop up." "They set me up to fail," he muttered, eyes darting. I nodded. "That's because they dismantled a system that worked. Those maintenance schedules you scrapped, they weren't excessive, they were necessary. Vincent says the budget can't support that level of maintenance, and how's the budget looking with production down and quality issues rising?" Tyson's silence was answer enough. "I'm in over my head," he confessed, looking defeated. "Listen," I said, "I didn't ask you here to gloat. I asked because in about 3 weeks, several things are going to happen. Horizon Energy is going to demand a quality audit. The safety board is going to conduct another surprise inspection, and the evidence of systematic safety violations is going to land on several desks, including corporate headquarters." Tyson paled. "Are you threatening me?" "You're trying to ruin me," he snapped, his voice rising. "No, I'm giving you a choice. You can be the fall guy when this all comes crashing down, the inexperienced manager who couldn't handle the job, or you can get ahead of it." "How?" "By documenting everything Vincent and corporate have pushed on you, every maintenance request you submitted that was denied, every safety concern that was dismissed." Tyson stared at his untouched food. "They'll fire me." "I'm trapped, Royce," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Maybe, but you'd be doing the right thing, and you wouldn't have a preventable death on your conscience." I left Tyson with my card. "Think about it. You've got 1 week." 4 days later, he texted me. "I'm in. What do you need from me? I want to make this right," he added, his words heavy with guilt. The pieces were falling into place. Now we just needed one final push. A situation that would force Silver Ridge to face the consequences of their choices. As if on cue, the number 2 hydraulic press, the heart of the production line, catastrophically failed the next day. No injuries, thankfully, but production ground to a halt. The plant group chat exploded with panic, workers fearing layoffs. The crisis point had arrived. My phone rang at 7:15 a.m. It was Vincent Cole himself. "Royce," he said, strain evident in his voice, "we have a situation at the plant." "You're our only hope," he pleaded, his arrogance gone. "So I've heard," I replied calmly. The shutdown had been all over the plant group chat by midnight. "Look, I'll be direct. We need your expertise. The main press is down, production's halted, and we have orders backing up. Our maintenance team can't identify the problem." "That's because you fired Jasper, who maintained that press for 18 years, I pointed out. Vincent's sigh was heavy. "Can we set aside the past for now? The company is willing to bring you in as a consultant to get us operational again. Name your price, Royce," he said, desperation clear. "I'm listening." $400, 0 cents per hour cash. No questions asked about how you fix it. We just need it running by end of week. I almost laughed. They thought this was about money. "I'll be there in an hour," I said, "but I have conditions. 1. I bring my own team. Mateo, Leroy, and Elena. 2. I have complete authority over repair decisions and parts orders. 3. I want access to all maintenance records for the past 8 months. Vincent hesitated then. "Fine. Whatever it takes. Just don't screw us over," he muttered, his voice tight. When I walked into the plant an hour later, the floor was in chaos. Operators standing idle, managers huddled in corners, whispering urgently, the massive hydraulic press sitting silent and dark. The air reeked of oil and fear. Tyson approached me immediately. "Thank God you're here. It's worse than I thought." "I've got everything you asked for," he whispered, slipping me a USB drive. I nodded. "Let's see it." As I inspected the press, everything became clear. Multiple system failures caused by months of neglected maintenance. Exactly what I'd warned about. I turned to Vincent, who was hovering nearby. "I can fix this, but first I need to show you something." I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I just sent this report to Vanguard Equity's executive team, the State Safety Board, and Horizon Energy Systems. It details every safety violation, every corner cut, and every risk created by the policies you've implemented. Lindsay's face drained of color. "You can't do that. You're destroying us," he shouted, his composure shattered. "I already have," I said. "Now, do you want this press fixed or not?" 4 days. That's how long it took to fix the hydraulic press, a repair that would have been a simple maintenance issue if they'd followed my original schedules. My team worked tirelessly, their loyalty a silent rebuke to Vincent's betrayal. During those 4 days, Silver Ridge experienced a whirlwind of consequences. Horizon Energy suspended their orders pending a full quality review. "We trusted you and you failed us," their CEO wrote in a scathing letter. The safety board arrived for another inspection, this one much more thorough than the last, and Vanguard Equity sent their own operations team to assess the situation. By day 4, Vincent was gone, reassigned to corporate headquarters. "He's been sacked," Mateo whispered, a grim smile on his face. Tyson remained, but in a reduced role, reporting to a new operations director who'd been dispatched from the parent company. That new director, Philip Dunlap, called me into the office after we got the press running again. "Impressive work," he said. "The corporate team has reviewed your documentation, very thorough. You've exposed a rot we didn't see," he admitted, his tone respectful. I waited, saying nothing. "We're implementing a complete overhaul of maintenance and safety protocols at all our facilities," Philip continued, "and we'd like to offer you a position. Director of Manufacturing Operations for Silver Ridge. You're the only one who can fix this mess," he urged, leaning forward. I considered the offer. "At what salary?" Philip named a figure 35% higher than I'd been making before, and complete autonomy over maintenance schedules and safety procedures within budget constraints. I shook my head. "That's the problem. Safety can't be budgeted quarter by quarter. I won't be your puppet," I said, my voice firm. I stood to leave, then paused. "I'll consult 4 days a week at my hourly rate. I'll help you rebuild the systems I created, train your people properly, and get production back to where it should be. But I won't be an employee again." Philip considered this, then nodded. "Acceptable." "You're a tough bastard, Royce," he said with a wry smile. I didn't go back for the title or the money. I went back for Mateo and Elena and Leroy and all the others who deserve to work in a safe environment. I went back to rebuild what I'd spent 25 years creating. I went back to honor the promise I made to myself: no one else would suffer on my watch. When I walked onto the floor the next Wednesday, the machines were already humming more smoothly. They knew their old caretaker had returned. The crew greeted me with nods and quiet gratitude, their eyes saying what words couldn't: